Guys, what's going on? It's Rich here, taking you through another reinforced workout series. This time I'm going to specifically focus on one particular element in the entire workout, and that's the shoes. So the Alphaflys and like the Nike 4% project has been going on, and it's the shoe that Eliud Kipchoge ran that sub 2-hour marathon with. A lot of controversy around the shoe, but for right now, the shoe exists and it works and it's awesome when it comes to running specifically. So I took this into the gym to see how it was going to perform through some various movement stations, with the idea to try to figure out if this thing is a viable option for a Hyrox or DEKAFIT event. I've seen some people wearing these at the events, so I wanted to give it a test run myself. So in this particular video, I'm going to be wearing the Alphaflys 4%. So that's a newer one with that funny like bubble up front. So all the workouts are going to be listed below, and I'm not going to do too much on the splits. We're going to talk specifically about the shoe, but we'll go over everything in that as well. So if you like these videos, hit us with a thumbs up, hit us with a subscribe to get all the newest ones coming straight to your feed. All right, so let's just get into it. All right, so for the first workout here, we're just focusing on the Ski Erg. It's 750 meters on the Ski Erg, 3 rounds of 750 on the Ski Erg, 50-meter push with the Hyrox weight on it, and then just 200-meter run. So this was very much focused around the stations. I didn't want the run to be too much a part of this. I have been dealing with some like hip injury, not injury, I don't want to say it's injury, but it's like, it's the quality work. It's I need to be pretty touch and go. I don't want to rush anything back in that, but everything else in the gym feels good. So doing aerobic work on Ski Erg or the sleds have been fine. So, but really the idea is like looking at the shoes. So right now they're doing fine. There's nothing to report on when it comes to the Concept 2 Ski Erg here. One thing I will note, I did do 3 rounds of it. This is my second round. The first round I did do in the Skechers Razor 3, which you can kind of see right below the flywheel there. Those are fine. They work well. It's what I wore for DEKAFIT. They're good shoes. All in all, I do enjoy them. So this is my first time like really trying to focus on what it feels like in the Alphaflys. And one thing that I want to focus on during the Ski Erg in general is pressing through the middle of my foot and making sure my center of gravity is directly in the middle, and just trying to make sure everything is level. And I was worried that these were going to kind of give me a weird idea of where the ground was, but that wasn't necessarily the case at all. One thing I will note, on the next round I still wore the Alphaflys on this, and they felt uncomfortable. They're not comfortable shoes to stand in any way. They're pretty narrow along the midfoot, and no matter what kind of foot you have, the middle of your arch is going to spill over the side of the midsole of these, and it's going to be kind of uncomfortable. So if you ever like stood in these for an extended period of time, like more than, I don't know, like I've never stood in them longer than like 5 minutes, and I'd imagine if you did stand in them for like an hour or so, they would really start hurting your feet. So some nuts and bolts here on the Ski Erg. Like one thing I noticed that I was doing, I was kind of coming up short with my hips, not opening all the way up to get that full extension of the handles, to try to get them a little bit higher. So I will make a note to do that. I'll probably move my feet a little bit closer to the implement just to make sure that I can open my hips all the way up and get a little bit higher with that, to make sure I can get a little bit more extension through the pull. But everything else looks good. The pacing felt comfortable. It was pretty much around 150 or so for 500 for the 750. So I picked 750 here just as a way that I can get the total volume pretty high without needing to do the 1,000, and just like having a mental reprieve. So coming into the Sled Push, here's where I was wondering what these were going to be like, because the upper on the Alphaflys is different. So one thing I must note, the carpet going in this direction for this Sled Push is much harder. You can see how like the sled's kind of coming up from the ground, and I'm also just not low enough. I was a little bit high, and when I get too high on it, like that happens with this sled in particular, which is certainly annoying. So I was worried that the shoe was going to slip out, like my heel was going to slip out of this shoe, because like you can't really tie it that tight. There is a little bit of a foam padding that sits like across your Achilles that kind of helps lock the foot in, just because there's no heel counter really, and the upper is very, very light. And actually did a pretty decent job. I mean, it wasn't as secure as the Skechers felt, but I wasn't expecting that. And in terms of like the way it felt on the push, it was no different. It didn't feel any different with the way the Skechers felt versus these crazy Alphaflys. So that was pretty optimistic for me. One thing to note, that these shoes cost $275, and they have been known to only last about like 150 miles before things kind of start falling apart. So I would not recommend using these in training. So here I am getting completely sidetracked by the classic I Want You Back by NSYNC, which is my jam. So I was clearly derailed there and just wasting time because I was also tired. So the splits here, it was taking about 39 seconds to push the sled going that way, going the current direction, and it took about 30 pushing it the other direction. So as we know, the carpet matters. We're going to see how that works in Hyrox itself, but it's clear that the carpet matters here. And from pushing this over and over, to get about 10 meters, it would take me about 20 to 24-ish steps to make that whole way. But by the time I'm at 24 to 25 steps, my legs feel pretty blown up, and it feels like I'm really on that line of like going overboard in terms of fatigue. So going into Hyrox, I'm going to plan on doing about 12 steps, and then taking rest. So here in this, the one thing that did happen with the Alphaflys is that I was wearing low socks, and my socks did slip under the shoe and then all the way under my foot. So if I was to wear these in competition, I usually do wear like a quarter or a crew to avoid things like this. Or in an OCR event, you just want to have socks that are going to cover the space for like rope climb or whatever. But I would definitely recommend that, because my sock is directly under my foot right now and it's uncomfortable and annoying. And if that was to happen in a Hyrox event where it's the second station, that would be terrible. That would lead to a really uncomfortable and terrible race. So that is something to note, that is certainly a negative about this shoe. So here I am on my last push. Again, about 30 seconds one direction, 39 the other. My rests were between 15 and 19 seconds, which is fine. I mean, I would like it to be closer to 10 or under 10, and maybe in training, but the volume of this particular sled push workout was really high. It was 150 meters where I'm only going to be needing to push it 50. So this was just helping me kind of completely overload this workout, overload this actual movement, so that things just felt a little bit better, a little bit easier during the race. So we'll see if that pays off. But yeah, my rest was just a little bit too much. Even with this type of break right here in the middle, it was still 39 seconds to push it back. The total push ended up being about 4 minutes, which I'll take, especially in training. If I'll take that in a race, honestly, that would be fine. So pushing it, and then we're headed out the door, and I must say, like, transitioning into the run felt great. The run always feels good with these Alphaflys on. I knew they would. And this was only a 200-meter run. I just wanted to see what that would feel like immediately after. And again, I wasn't really trying to put a ton of miles on these shoes. They're expensive, and they will fall apart. They are readily available now. If you need a pair, you can get a pair. You can get a pair of these and get a pair of the Vaporflies. Pretty much anywhere that there are shoes. I walked into a running store the other day and they had them and tried them on. Where these shoes do kind of go through a shortage from time to time, but right now they seem to be pretty available. As of doing this is June 1st, 2021. So if you are thinking about grabbing a pair, I would, and I don't know if they would. They might stop making these at some point. So if you have any interest in grabbing a pair, now would be a really good time. So in terms of the 200-meter run, I wasn't too concerned about what that really looked like, but it was all pretty solid. So we're moving to the second workout here, which again was 3 rounds, 500-meter row, and then a 50-meter sled pull, and again 200-meter run. Again, I really wanted to focus on the aerobic work, being on the machines and getting comfortable with that. And I really wanted to see what how these shoes would perform, because I know they're going to perform well on the actual run itself. So if you look down, you can see how my heel is kind of popping out of the the pedals there, which is not something that is particularly going to happen ever with a regular shoe. The heel on this shoe, like the shoe is stacked incredibly high, and there's a weird like angle at the back of the shoe that makes you pop out of it. It just doesn't stay in the pedal, which is a little frustrating. And I'd vote against it, but it didn't really affect the pace on the rower. It was about 150s again. So here I'm with the pull. So this is about 10 pounds heavier than what the pull is going to be for the actual Hyrox event. And in the shoe, it felt fine. It really wasn't too big of a difference in terms of what it felt like versus the Skechers, which I did put the Skechers back on for this. So one thing with this workout, which is a little annoying, is that I need to unclip this and move the rope around to get the full rope pull in, which is less than ideal. So one thing I was definitely working on was trying to figure out the best approach for this. I know I'm going to have to step back this way. So one thing I've been trying to focus on is how to keep my arms. And honestly, I think they're better off a little bit more straight than bent when pulling back. Kind of how, like, if you do rock climb, like if you're hanging from a hold, like if your arm is bent, most of the time it's gonna be a little bit harder than if your arm is straight and you're using your body to leverage it. So kind of the same idea with the sled pull, is keeping the arms straight and just using your body to kind of leverage things back. When looking at past Hyrox videos, it looks like you can get about 5 or 6 backward steps like in that box. That's usually when I start running out of gas anyway. I think there was a couple here where I was like 7 or 8 ones that felt good, but I think it's going to be limited to 5 or 6, and then making sure that rope is getting kicked off to either your right or left, my right or left side, so that it's not directly in the middle, so I'm not tripping on it as it comes by. So you'll see people do that. You'll see it be off to the side and people kind of kick it out of the way as it comes through. Sort of like that. And with this, I was trying to replicate what it would be like in the actual race, where starting further back on the rope in the beginning and getting those big pulls in with the most amount of slack. And as you pull it forward, you kind of walk forward a little bit and then continue to kind of walk the thing back. So this overall went well, and it was 3 rounds of 50 meters, so the volume was pretty high overall with this. And I was happy with the way that this really did play out. My hands and my lats did end up feeling pretty fatigued by the end of it. But see, I was shaking out here. This is my second round. The first round I had a different strap. I didn't have like the rope. It was a rope and a strap, and the strap was just not happening. So my hands are getting pretty fatigued here. But that was like the main thing. My lats were feeling it a little bit as well. I was feeling it in my lats as the week went on. So it felt pretty sore, but I really did enjoy this. I really had fun pulling this thing, trying to figure this out. So I think that during the race, I mean, it's obviously going to be harder. Everything in the race is going to be harder. I know that. But having less transition time, like this is just really slow. Just having to clip it and then walk the rope down a little bit is less than ideal. But this sled pull is kind of hard to replicate, and I have a rope here that is going to work, so I'm going to use it as much as I possibly can, because that's going to be the name of the game. For the event itself, I might go gloves. I just got a couple pairs of gloves. I'm going to try them out at the gym later on today to see how those go. I've been happy with how not sweaty I've been. I'm a very sweaty person, so I would worry about that in the race. And the first race I'm going to do for Hyrox is going to be in Orlando, which is going to be hot. So I'm going to see how those gloves are going to work overall in general with this. There is a ton of noise going on. There's a car alarm, there's the music, but that was my fifth run, and so I'm out the door. Again, the run felt good. There was no problem with the run in any way. So overall, my take on the Alphaflys is that I think that they'll work. It's hard to say what these are going to be like on an indoor surface with so many turns. A lot of these events are going to be at least 2, sometimes 3 laps per 1,000 meters. So it's a lot of turning. From what I found, that these are going to feel a little bit, you're going to have a little bit less control of the shoe on a surface like that, especially if the turns are really tight. They're probably not going to be like track turns where it's 100 meter of turn. It's probably going to be much more sharp of a turn. So I'm not sure how those are going to work in that event. But if for just the stations themselves, I don't see a reason not to use these. I think that they will be completely fine if you really want to feel good on the run. If you don't want to worry about if you want every advantage you want on the run, I say you should use these. I think that they would work just fine if you're willing to beat these shoes up, or if this is your main thing and you want to go after just this by using this shoe. I am not going to use this for my first go at this, or probably my second go. My idea of the season is doing Orlando here in the first week of June, and then Chicago at the end. And I don't want those two races in particular to have any I don't want the shoes to affect the race in any way. And so I want to take it to a race that has a little bit less stakes, because Orlando's a kind of qualifier for Chicago, and Chicago is going to be the US Championship. So it's not the right time to do that, but I will use them eventually in a race, maybe toward the end of the year if there is a race maybe in LA or wherever I end up doing a Hyrox event. I'm definitely going to use these at some point, and I'm probably going to get another pair of these just because they are so awesome. And if you have any type of road race coming up, it's going to be advantageous to have them. So overall, I think the shoes are fine. I did some wall balls later in the workout, and that was a little funny. It kind of felt like I was rocking back and forth, but not to the point where it would really be detrimental to the actual race performance. So if you got them, give them a shot. Vaporflies, Alphaflys, see how they go. There's not too much dynamic movement here in Hyrox. There's not anything really lateral. I think actually the biggest thing is going to be how they would perform on those tight turns. But everything else in the stations, I think they're good to go. So if you got them, give them a shot. Cool, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it's helpful. Hopefully you can get some information on how to train, or what to do, some inspiration on how to train, what kind of gear to wear. So if you like this video, hit us with a like, hit us with a subscribe to get all the newest videos directly to your feed. So if you did want to try the Reinforced Running Strength Training Program for obstacle course racers, there is a free 7-day trial in the description below. Just click that, get your free 7 days, cancel, no questions asked. So give that a try, give us a like, and we will talk to you soon.